For the second part of today, we'll be talking about counterarguments. You can follow along on your handout as well as on the Edpuzzle video. So there's many parts of an argument, but the two that we'll be focusing on today are your claim and thesis, basically the argument you make, and a counterargument. You've already talked about this briefly in Miss Fisk's class, but the counterargument is an argument that disagrees with your claim. It objects to your claim. It's essentially the opposite of your claim. One way of looking at the claim and thesis in the counterargument is with they say, I say. So the claim and thesis is what you say, what you believe, and the counterargument is what they say, other people, and what they believe. Now you might think it's kind of weird to address a counterargument in your essay, but it's important to recognize that through addressing or understanding the they say, in your essay or discussion or debate or speech, you're actually making your argument stronger. Rather than pretending like the other side doesn't exist, you actually address it and then disprove it. There's three parts to a counterargument. The first one is the concession, where you concede. This is basically what they say. Then you refute this by saying, but I say. And finally, you emphasize your overall point. Here are some sentence starters to help you with the parts of a counterargument. Use these until you feel comfortable with counterargument, and you'll be really successful. Once you're comfortable, you can start branching out and using your own sentences that you build. The second part of this Edpuzzle video is actually examples and practice. You'll be following along and completing the assignments on your paper and then checking with as you move through the Edpuzzle video. So I've written an example here on the topic of cell phones in schools. You'll see that here. I outlined the pros of cell phone usage in school and some of the cons. You all brought these up, I think that was 2 weeks ago or last week. Using these pros and cons that I developed, I then wrote a paragraph here that is a counter-argument paragraph. So the paragraph reads, many people, including the staff at Leadership Public Schools, believe that students should not use cell phones in schools. More specifically, they argue that cell phones will distract students from their academics during the day. Now you'll see that these first two sentences match directly up with the con. That's the counter-argument. They say that cell phones are bad. Then I go on to say what I believe. In my view, this perspective is correct because cell phones serve multiple purposes, is incorrect because cell phones serve multiple purposes. More specifically, I believe that students would actually benefit from phone use when the cell phones are incorporated into the lessons. Therefore, I include that cell phones could actually be used in academics if teachers allow us to use apps to learn. So I want you to go through now, and you'll see in the directions it says, please identify and label the three parts of the paragraph. So I identify the where I concede, refute, and emphasize my overall point. Here you'll see the answer key. Check this against your work to make sure you got this correct. Finally, make up your own. Choose a topic, write down the pros and cons, pick a side, and use the sentence starters.